What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And today, my amazing guest, who we're so happy is here with us because she could have not been here with us, is Brisa Alfaro. Hello, Brisa.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Gary.
Absolutely. You've got an amazing story. And I know you're doing such incredible work, so I'm excited about jumping in. So if it's okay with you, I'm just going to read a quick little blurb on you and then we'll get cooking. Does that work?
Sure. Thank you.
Cool biz. All right, everybody, we have Brisa Alfaro, and she discovered her passion for mental recovery in 2014 when she survived a rare stroke and developed locked-in syndrome, which left her facing less than 1% chance to recover. Before Brisa's stroke, her passion and love were for the beauty industry. Her stroke left her completely hopeless and alone in a New York City hospital bed. It wasn't until she discovered the power of her own mind and little by little started unlocking her body. Brisa discovered the power of a few tools, and today, those same small tools in her business have given her the ability to create big results in her life. And along with that, she's helping the rest of us or anyone else who's gone through that same type of challenge. So, Brisa, it's awesome. You're a miracle. And I love that you're taking that second chance and doing such great work with it. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it.
Thank you. I received
But
that.
before we jump in, I'm sorry. I'm just contractually obligated by myself. I've made myself do this because we're the What If You Could podcast.
Okay.
I asked all my guests the same question to start. I say, "Hey, Brisha, have you ever had a what if you could moment? Is there a what if you could thought? Is there still a what if you could that you'd love to see that you'd like to share with us?"
Yeah, I think that's the perfect it's a perfect way to segue into my story because I often think, what if we could change the way we look at stroke recovery? And what if it wasn't meant to take you down? It was just meant to make you pause and then play again.
Wow. Wow. Well, I think anyone who's been through crazy health issues or financial issues or relationship issues, I've gone from cancer to cardiac arrest, all sorts of crazy things. And I keep asking myself the same question. Why me? What the hell? What did I do? I'm healthy, I'm fit. How does this stuff happen? But then you kind of sometimes look at it, like you said, right? And go, maybe someone's telling me something. Maybe I'm here for a reason. Maybe I've got to shift. Maybe I've got to find why I'm here, right? And you did that.
Yeah, it wasn't by choice at first, you know.
No, no, you wouldn't have chosen to do that.
No, but it's interesting the question that you open up with because it does lead a lot of people to think um, a little deeper, right? And honestly, when you're going through things like that, you do follow up with questions like, why me? And why did this have to happen to me? Of all the people in the world, why me? Well, I asked myself the same question in the beginning, why me? Then later I realized, why not me? Why not me? What makes me so different than anybody else in this world? What makes me so unique than anybody else in this world? Maybe I was given the gift of this circumstance to be able to spin it so that I could help other people, so that other people can see that it's possible to recover from something like this, that it's possible to hit rock bottom and still be able to thrive again. Maybe that's why it had to be me. And I think that oftentimes we get so caught up in that question and the negativity of that question, and we don't realize that it's actually happening for us, not to us. And many times we think it's happening to us. Like every single thing that every negative circumstance that you're stepping into is happening to you. Well, if you have that perspective in life, everything is going to seem like a challenge. Whether you are on, the freeway, stuck in traffic, and you're pissed off because you're going to be late to wherever you had to be at. And now your whole day, you're thinking your whole day is ruined. But maybe that was for a purpose, because you weren't supposed to be at that precise location at that exact time, because something could have happened at that time. That takes me back to a story. I used to be a hairstylist before I had my stroke. I used to be a hairstylist. And during 9/11, every person that would come in had a different story. One of my clients came in and said she was so angry that her kid missed the bus because now she was going to have to drive to work. And she didn't want to drive to work because she knew how much time it was going to take her and everything. So she was pissed off the whole way there. And then barricade after barricade, things were messing up. The train system was backed up. Like everything was just a mess. And she never made it to work. She actually had to come back home. She went back home and realized what had happened. If she had made it on time to work, she wouldn't be here today to tell the story. So sometimes things happen in life that we think they're happening to us and against us, but they're actually happening for us. So if we take a pause and just think of it, change our perspective a little bit, I think everything will change. And that's kind of what I had to do in my recovery. So, speaking of New York, I was living in New York City when I had my stroke. I was 32 years old. I didn't think something like that could happen to me. I was healthy. I wasn't a bad person. I didn't do bad things. So I didn't think that I deserved something like that, I why me? Again, going back to that. So I didn't think I deserved it. But I also didn't know what else was in store for me later. So in this very moment, I'm in the hospital, faced with a less than 1% chance to survive. Listening to my doctors describe my medical condition to my family, explaining to them that I had a less than 1% chance to survive. There are less than 5 cases per year worldwide. It is a very rare form of stroke. This stroke that she has, she's developed something called locked-in syndrome. I didn't know what that was. I had no idea. But it started to make sense because no one was listening to me. No one was hearing me. I felt I was okay when I'm listening to the doctors and my family and everyone around me talking to me. I'm communicating with them. I'm talking to them, but they don't hear me. And I didn't understand why they didn't hear me. And it wasn't because they didn't hear me. It was because I wasn't speaking. And the type of stroke that I had, I was awake and aware, but nothing could come out. So everything that was in my brain stayed in my brain. And the particular place where I had the stroke, it happened in my brainstem. So your brainstem is at the back of your neck. It controls all basic. It's the main highway, basically, from your brain to the rest of your body. So it was because I had a stroke there, because I had a brainstem stroke, it cut off all form of communication to the rest of my body. So that left my body in a vegetative state. So there was no movement. I wasn't able to breathe on my own. I wasn't able to eat on my own. I wasn't able to speak or communicate. So this left everyone pretty perplexed until my neurologist realized what type of stroke this was, because it was very rare, and there's less than, at that time, 5 cases per year. It wasn't talked about. It wasn't very common, but it was something that they covered in their medical books. So all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, this is what this must be. I'm grateful for my doctors to know, to have enough knowledge to know what kind of stroke I endured, because many times people with locked in syndrome, it goes unnoticed and they don't make it because the family, doctors, everyone doesn't think that there's any form of life after, without future tests and all that. They just see there's a lifeless body, not able to breathe on their own, and it's not a way of life. So usually it doesn't go past that, and they pull the plug way too early without
Wow.
giving the person a chance.
Wow. That's
And
uh, that's not a great prognosis. Obviously, that's not a great. You touched on a lot of stuff there, and I just want to go back a little bit.
yeah,
You know, it's like the saying, it's not what happens to us, it's what we do with what happens to us, that makes a difference in our lives. And I think so many people have had that experience, just that 1 second, you go through, someone runs a red light and the car behind you or the front car in front of you gets hit and people get killed. And just a second, it could have been you, right? It could have been your car that got hit. So that story about, 9/11 and all that is amazing. There's a lot of stories like that about 9/11, which is so tragic, but also so inspiring, right? I mean, it's like, what does that mean for you when you're the one who made it? What does that mean for you? And so you've taken this diagnosis, and so you can't communicate at all? Are you able to move and write on a board or anything?
nothing, nothing.
So
I was
you're kind of just in your head hearing people talking about you, and you're like, "Hey, man, I'm trying to tell you something, and
I
I
was
can't communicate."
screaming
That had
in
to
my
be,
mind.
yeah. So that, I mean, that had to be kind of terrifying, also,
It was.
right?
It was basically like living a nightmare. But I mean, I thought I was many times I thought the only person that could hear me and understand me was my mom. But my mom was just being a mom. She would kind of come in my room and she would say, baby, are you cold? Do you want an extra blanket? And I was like, yeah, I want to, I am cold. And she would say, okay, I'll be right back. And then she'd come back
Mm,
with a warm blanket. Okay. Or then she would say, are you hungry? Yes, I am hungry. Okay. A nurse would come in and feed me, through a tube in my stomach. But that was just my mom being my mom. I honestly thought that she was the only one that could hear me in the beginning. Um, but later I realized that wasn't the case, because after a while, hearing my family and friends and doctors communicate with me with it being open-ended questions, and I started to realize, okay, they can't hear me, they can't. And I started to realize my state, and that I needed to show them a sign that I was physically in my body, even though everybody was telling them the odds are not good. Don't like it's a lot of times I think that happens to us as we're trying to make a difference in this world. Everybody kind of assumes the worst, or it's just going to be too hard. Why even try? And I think I'm very grateful that I had a very stubborn Latin mama, and she was like, "Oh no, you're going to keep trying." So we made those doctors come in my room over and over again and check me. And one day when I was laying there in the bed, I remember really trying to send signals to my body to move, but those movements were didn't come out. I didn't know where I was sending the signals to. So my body would do kind of weird things. It would twitch, or um, certain body parts would move, but I didn't have coordination on it yet. I didn't know what I was doing, where I was moving. I think the first things that I started to to realize was I need to focus. I need to focus on one thing. And when I started to focus, that's when I visually could focus. That's when I started opening my eyes, and honestly, I was able to visually focus on people in the room. And now I could open my eyes and see the person that was speaking to me. That voice that I was listening to before was now coming from that person. So I was putting things together like that. Now I still couldn't move, I still couldn't communicate, breathe on my own, nothing, but I could at least do that. Although that's what a lot of people with locked in syndrome are left with for the rest of their life, just eye movement. And I knew that I wanted more, and I needed to show them that I am trying. And if I could do that,
So what was the first thing you were able to do to communicate to people that, hey, I'm still in here and I want to get out?
so what I did was I that energy that I was sending through the rest of my body, what I did was finally pinpoint that energy beam. And I imagine it being like an energy coming from my brain, passing the barricade at my brain stem, traveling down through my arm, passing my elbow, and then stalling at my wrist. Just trying to make one one thing move, just one thing move intentionally. And finally, my mom noticed. She noticed I moved my pinky. When I moved my pinky, my mom was so excited. She ran to tell the doctors, my daughter's moving, she's moving on command. And those doctors disregarded her excitement. And they said, I'm sorry, ma'am. I know you want to believe it, but those movements are involuntary. All those movements that you've been seeing are involuntary. She says, no, I know she's moving on command. And again, Latin, stubborn mama made them come back in the room and check me. And this time I was going to do it because I was doing it over and over again for her and for the rest of my family. So now is my time to shine. My doctors are in the room, my nurses are in the room, everyone's in the room, and I got to do it again. But now I'm stalling again because I'm so tired. But sometimes all we need is a little bit more hope, a little bit more belief. And I got that from listening to one of my doctors say he gave me a chance to try again, because one of my other neurologists said, I don't think she's going to do it, she's not doing it. And my other neurologist said, wait, give her more time. I think she's trying. Her face just changed. It was a fraction of a movement that he saw
Mm.
in my face
Wow.
that made him give me another chance, to give me the ability to make that connection, to make my pinky move again. It was a fraction of a movement. I didn't get up and walk out of the hospital. I didn't, just have a complete recovery. All I did was make a fraction of a movement in my face, which led me to move my pinky, which later led me to move my hand, weeks later, move my arm, months later, move my leg. I learned how to then walk with a walker, later, walk with a cane, later, walk unassisted. It was all of those little micro victories that compounded to lead me to live a life that is barely recognizable. Every single little thing that I've done were pinky moves. They were
And so
tiny.
that's where, is that when you came up with Pinky Moves? Is that why your program and your world is kind of based on Pinky Moves?
Yes, it is. It is because that's all we need to do. We just have to keep moving our pinky over and over and over again. Small little micro moves in the direction of our goals will get us to limitless abilities. I mean, it will transform our lives if we just keep making them. It's when
It's
we
interesting how many things correlate to that, right? Whether it's trying to eat healthier, whether it's trying to get up earlier, whether it's trying to exercise, whether it's trying to change how we do our work. It's a relationship with our children or our spouses or our friends. It's just everything in our life really is about pinky moves. I mean, it's just, we don't have to make massive giant, we don't have to jump out of an airplane, right, with a parachute. It's just those little micro steps, right, that will change our life if we continue to make the steps. You didn't stop. You could have moved your pinky and said, ah, shit, I'm done. I'm exhausted, right? I'll
right,
never move it again. But you
right.
didn't. You kept trying to make the rest of you move little by little.
Yeah, and I mean it's it's sometimes I understand how people get frustrated because they want more. They just want more and they deserve more. And you can get more if you don't stop. If you start to celebrate what you are doing, because that what gets celebrated gets repeated. And that's why I created Pinky Moves, because I started to celebrate the little micro moves that I was doing, that I was accomplishing. So at first, it was a little pinky move. And then later, it turned into something else and something else. I mean, every little thing that I did, I called them pinky moves because that was my first move. So in anything that I do now, I can't expect to know 100%. Like if I decided to tomorrow start a podcast, I wouldn't know what the hell I'm doing. But it's going to take me pinky moves to get there. Doesn't mean that I can't. It's just going to take me pinky moves. It's going to take me small, intentional steps in the direction of my goals. And that is going to lead me to massive success.
So
That's
when we were working with people, are you mostly or only or specifically working with stroke patients,
no.
or are you taking your coaching and you're working with everybody? Because everybody basically can change their life with your system. So who are you working with your Pinky Moves program?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because in the beginning, when I started sharing my story, it was I thought that my story was only for stroke survivors because I am a stroke survivor. So I started sharing it with other stroke survivors. They were like my safe space, you know. And then later I started branching out and sharing it with more people. And who else can this help? And who else can this help? And I started realizing that I my story is not just for stroke survivors. It's for anyone that feels locked in their current circumstances, that feels like there there is there the odds are against them, that their voice doesn't matter, that what they're doing is not enough. It's for those people that feel like they want more. And those are not just stroke survivors. That's for every living person. And it's been incredible to see, I've shared my story with real estate investors, with um with entrepreneurs that have nothing to do with stroke recovery. I've shared my story with bankers, like I just people that I never thought that would relate to my story have. And then I started opening the door to more and more and more. And then I did a TEDx, and then I wrote a book, and then I started opening my story to more people because I know if I could get other people to see the potential that they have in themselves by just saying, it's okay. You don't have to do all these big things. You don't have to move mountains. You just have to make those small little shifts, and that'll get you to your dream. I don't want people to give up on their dreams and the difference that they can make in this world because they don't think that 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 their voice matters. I don't want them to think that it's not being recognized, that it's not enough, because it is. I just feel like they need to stay consistent and keep going. And then eventually they will make that difference in the way that they want to. But right now, they're making a small difference in the people that are around them, in the circle that they have right now, in the in their communities, in their families. And I feel like that's who my message is for. And that's who I've been sharing my story with. And that's who I've been helping. So it's always a breath of fresh air when I get someone to reach out to me that wants to work with me that is not a stroke survivor. Like, don't get me wrong, I love working with stroke survivors. But when they are not a stroke survivor, they are not going through a traumatic event, but they are going through something that is traumatic for them.
Well, that's where the challenge comes in, though. See, when you're working with a stroke survivor, the goal is obvious, right? I mean, the
Right.
goals are there. When you say, people who want more, obviously for a stroke survivor, I want to be able to eat. I want to be able to sit up and go to the bathroom. I want to be able to walk. I want to be able to raise my arms and hold my child or my mom or whatever, right? So when you're working with a stroke survivor, those goals are pretty fairly obvious, right? But when you're working with just someone who's struggling with whatever their issue, weight loss, relationships, job, depression, whatever, you have a different set of challenges because now it's finding their more. What do you want? What do you want more of? There's not that target. It's not as easy. So, when you make that shift to working with people, how do you get them to understand that, guys, I know you want more, but first of all, you've got to tell me what you want, and then I can help you take those little tiny steps and adjustments to get there.
Yeah. So basically, I like my clients to dream big because I dream big. I never stop dreaming big. But sometimes the bigness of the dream, the goal, it will paralyze people because it's so big. So my job is to break it down. And my job is to not to shrink your dream, but to get to the next step that will get you to that big goal. I know you want those big things, those big goals to happen right away. Like I wanted to get up and walk out of the hospital right away, but I couldn't do that without flickering my pinky. I couldn't I couldn't be on your podcast without having the ability to learn how to speak again. I couldn't be able to hug my family without the ability to learn how to move both sides of my body. So when we break things down like that, when we start to break things down and realize that it's those little micro moves that you have to accomplish and pause and celebrate them, allow it to allow yourself to marinate in it. That way it kind of overrides your system to realize like, oh, I could do this and I'm gonna do more. And then you do more and more and more. And then before you know it, you look back and you're like, oh, that I did that thing. Yeah, you did that thing. You sure did. But it was all those little micro moves. When you look at the big goal, it's too big sometimes. It's like a big mountain to climb, but put one foot in front of the other and just keep climbing. All of a sudden, you're at the top of the mountain. You don't even realize how you got there. But then you look down and you're like, oh crap, I'm at the top.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I want to
Tell me about your book,
simplify it.
Limitless. How did you come up with Limitless, and what what got you, like you said, I mean, you went from being a hairstylist, you probably weren't thinking about ever writing a book, or you may have, about the fashion industry or the beauty industry or something. But I mean,
I
all of a
loved it.
sudden
I know.
you get lockdown syndrome, and next thing you know, you're speaking and coaching, and then you write a book. And
Yeah,
how'd that come about?
that's a crazy story. How much time do we have? I'm just kidding. I'll try to make it quick. So while I was in the locked in state, laying in my hospital bed, my mom played a book for me. The book was The Secret. I don't know if you've ever heard of The Secret. The
Oh
Secret
yeah, of
is
course.
on the law of attraction and what you
Yeah.
focus on grows. So in this book, I'm so glad you asked this question. In this book, I heard the voice of a woman by the name of Lisa Nichols. And she said, the first step is to ask. Make a command to the universe. Let the universe know what you want because the universe responds to your thoughts. At that time, thoughts were all I had. So that what I did was change my thoughts to match the future that I wanted to create. There was a lot of other things that I did also along the way, but that was one of the main things that I did. And her words resonated so deeply with me. And I repeated that mantra in my mind over and over and over again. One day I said, I am going to meet this woman. I'm going to meet anyone I can from The Secret, anyone, because that book changed my life. And Lisa was the first person that I met from The Secret. And I didn't know I was going to meet her. I just had hope. One day I came home from the hospital. This was a while after I came home. I had received my first disability check in the mail. And I was so excited. I was going to buy a ticket to go see Lisa Nichols speak. And I'm going to go and hear her speak, and I'm going to meet her, and I'm going to have her sign my book, The Secret, and I'm going to tell her how she changed my life. I'm going to tell her thank you and give her a big hug. So I buy this ticket to go see her speak. I'm in California, and I'm so excited to get it in my email, and I read the email, and I'm like, it's in Florida.
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh
So
no.
I'm I I'm home and I'm talking to my mom and I'm like, so I did a thing. And she's like, what did you do? I'm like, so you know the money that I got in my bank account? I bought a ticket to see Lisa Nichols. She's like, okay, how much was the ticket? It was like, I don't know, 2 grand or something. And she was like, what? Like, yeah. So it was, I don't know, it was a VIP ticket. I thought I would get there. I would be able to be up close and in person with her. So I don't know.
So did you
But
meet her?
here's the thing, it's in Florida. And she says, oh my God, okay. So we figure it out. I end up having to go because my mom couldn't go with me. Nobody could travel with me at the time. I still currently had a brain injury. I was physically at that point recovered physically to a good degree, but I still had a lot of um, brain injury issues. I had short-term memory, a problem with numbers. I didn't understand numbers. So my mom was afraid of me traveling, people taking advantage of me if they understood, if they found out my deficits. So she was afraid, of course, as a mom, any mom would be. But I do this on my own. I'm so proud that I'm doing this on my own. I get there to Florida with a set of challenges, but I get there and I'm in this room with thousands of other women and men and people that are there to hear her speak. And I am sitting next to this woman. We're break for lunch. I'm sitting next to this woman. She asked me, how like, what do you do? How did you hear about this event? And I said, honestly, I'm just here to meet Lisa and tell her thank you. And she says, for what? And I tell her, and she's like, oh my God. And she says, you have to tell Lisa your story. I'm like, yeah, I want to, but I just found out that she doesn't do open
Meet
like
and
meet and
greets.
greets.
Yeah.
And she says, no, she doesn't, because like, look at all these people, she'd be here all day. And I said, okay, well, what, I don't know how else to tell her. I need to tell her thank you. And she says, whatever you do, whenever she asks anyone to raise her hand, you raise your hand every single time. Whatever you do, raise your hand. I said, okay. So we go back into the main room, and this is the end of the day. And Lisa Nichols is on stage, and she says, I'm going to open up the floor for a few questions. I'm going to call on 5 people, 1 through 5. She calls on 1 through 4. It wasn't me. Then she calls number 5, and that was me. I couldn't believe that I was number 5. So I have no idea what 1 through 4 said. But in my mind, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to tell her this is my chance. So she gets to me, and I'm like, am I really going to just tell my story in front of all these people? Well, here goes nothing. So the mic runner comes to me, brings the mic to me, and I have my time. I tell her, thank you for helping me live again. Thank you for her words that resonated so deeply with me. I repeated them back to her, and she couldn't believe what I had said. And after I was done telling her my story, it was a very condensed version of my story. She walks off the stage, walks over to me with tears in her eyes, gives me a hug, and tells me, I'm going to turn you around. And I don't want you to get scared, but I want you to see what you just did. And she turns me around, and I see the whole audience. They're all crying. And I had no idea the impact that my little pinky move story could have on people. And I realized then that my story is not for me. It's not just for me. I have to share my story. And after in that moment, she said, Brisa, I want to ask you something. When you write your book, may I write your forward? And I'm like,
Oh.
well, first of all, I'm not writing a book. She was like, yeah, you are.
And second of all, what's a forward?
Right. I had no idea. She's like, and I'm going to write your forward. I'm like, okay. So Lisa Nichols wrote the forward to my book.
Wow, that's amazing. That's an incredible story. And that's the power of, what you did. That's the power of mindset. That's the power of manifesting and setting those goals and not giving up. That's how you get into that spot. Because you easily could have said, I can't fly there and meet her. I can't go there. I can't talk in front of these people. I can't raise my hand and tell my story in front of all these people. I mean, you could easily have sabotaged yourself a dozen times, but you
And
didn't.
no, and all of those little things you just described, those are all pinky moves. Those are all pinky moves. So yes, that's all it took was for me to continue to make pinky moves. So when she said raise your hand every time, that was a pinky move. Okay, here I go. Here I go. Here I go, the last one. And then she calls me. That was all you need is that one time that it clicks. It clicks for you. And that's it. I just celebrated not too long ago the fact that right now I'm 11-year post my stroke. 11 years. I have not been able to remember what year we're currently living in because of my problem with numbers. Not too long ago, I just recited it is year 2025. And I said it over and over and over again. I celebrated it. That was my pinky move. And I feel like when you celebrate things, they get repeated. I'm so excited that I remember what year we're living in. And now I won't forget. And I feel like that's what we need to do more. We need to celebrate those little things that we like. I celebrated the fact that I got called. I celebrated the fact that Lisa believed in me. I celebrated the fact that I wrote a book. I every little tiny milestone or big milestone that I've accomplished, I have I have to find a way to celebrate it. When I say that, I'm not talking about throw a party. I'm talking about acknowledging it because so many times as entrepreneurs or as humans in general, we don't celebrate ourselves enough and we think that it's not enough. We think that it's just we just kind of throw it away. Yeah, we did that, but this. Yeah, we did that, but I didn't do that right. Or and women are so guilty of this, where a woman you can acknowledge a woman for having a good hair day or where whatever she's wearing that day, it looks beautiful. And immediately most women will follow it up with, yeah, but I had to do that to distract from my bad hair day, or I had to do that because my makeup is not great, or they always have to follow it up with something negative. What if we stopped and celebrated the fact that, yeah, you know what? It is a nice outfit. Thank you. Thank you. I received that. And then move on.
And you have to do it to yourself too. You have to acknowledge yourself. You don't even need to wait for someone to say, "Hey, your hair looks great today." You could be looking in the mirror, brushing your teeth, and go, "Dude, you look amazing today." You're feeling good today, or today's a good day, or what you did yesterday
Yeah.
was an epic thing, right? I mean, we can show love to ourselves and affirm ourselves, right?
High five habit. Have you heard of that? Like, give yourself a high five in the mirror.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
it. Yeah. You
Yeah.
do that. You go out there before you go out in the day. High five. You did high five yourself.
Yeah, you've got an awesome story. I love the book story. That's freaking awesome. I mean, that was a total God moment. That was a total, that just was meant to happen for you to get that. And then for her to do the forward in your book is amazing. I mean, if you would have, you could have tried 8,000 different ways to get her to do the forward in your book. She would have, I mean, she probably gets asked to do that, a
all the
thousand
time.
times, right? So the odds of her doing it are very slim. And the only way that could have happened is by her just saying, I want to do it. You didn't ask me to do it, but your story is so powerful. I want to do it, and what you shared with her. And that's a God moment, man. I mean, you can't make that stuff up. You can't even plan that stuff. But you only get yourself in that position by making pinky moves like you did, right? So tell me real quick about your coaching. How do people get you? What are you doing? What's the next steps for you? What's cooking for Brisa?
So you can reach me at brisalfaro.com or pinkymoves.com, and social media, the same thing, Brisa Alfaro on all platforms. And so what's coming up for me right now, I in the month of May, this is really, really cool because May is Stroke Awareness Month. So it's
Mm.
really cool that you're doing this podcast in May. And the American Stroke Association just named me, gave me the Stroke Hero Award, this,
Wow.
this year's Stroke Hero Award. So
Wow.
I'm really excited about that. And I get to keep that title all year long. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, they just announced it this May. On the 1st, they announced it.
That's
So
amazing.
I'm super excited about that. And also I'll be doing a few documentaries coming up, filming those. And I'm always interested in seeing how else I can help others and share my story on other platforms, and whether it be stroke related or not. Interested in that. If people want to coach with me one on one, most of my clients are one on one clients. Uh, I used to do a group coaching, but time has been stretched a little thin for me. So I also want to honor myself. I haven't been able to get there quite yet again, but I will. And then I'll be able to work with more people in a group setting. But right now it's just one on one, and speaking. I will speak at different events and things like that. So yeah, I'm.
Well, I'll tell you what, you were definitely allowed out of your shell, out of your captivity that the stroke put you in for a reason, obviously. And congratulations on that award. That's amazing considering how many people have a stroke, and you got the award for that because all the work that you've done. It's just amazing, kiddo. I just think it's fantastic. And there is hope, and what you're giving people is worth more than any amount of money, any amount of anything. I mean, you're giving people hope, and having been locked down in a situation like this, sometimes you just don't feel there is any, right? And so just so grateful for what you're doing. It's awesome, kiddo. Really, and I'm grateful for your time. I know your time is stretched, so I'm super grateful that you came on to share a little bit of your story with us today.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. I
Yeah.
really do. I really
Well,
appreciate
I'm
it.
gonna I'm gonna go get the book, and I can't wait to read the foreword.
Thank
But I
you.
can't wait to read the book either. So we're gonna put the
You
links
can find
to
it on Amazon. Yeah, I'll give you the link.
Yeah, oh, we're gonna have all the links on the podcast and make sure I get all those from you. The links to your website. We've got BrisaAlfaro.com. We've got PinkyMoves.com. The book on Amazon. You're gonna be speaking everywhere. I can't wait to see you just speaking everywhere. So I'm super excited that you came on, and I just can't wait to see what you do from here on out, kiddo. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Brisa. All right, everybody. You just got a little bit of a blessing of Brisa Alfaro. Please look for her on brisaalfaro.com. Pinky Moves. Get the book Limitless. And Pinky promise she's going to be doing some big stuff. I can Pinky promise you that for sure. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.